Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. This is the Rice Crypto Show, and I'm your host, Chris Rice Crypto. And on today's show, my guest is Lyn Ulbricht. She is the mother of Ross Ulbricht, who is the founder of Silk Road. And we're just going to go ahead and get right into this very special episode. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, today's special guest on the Rice Crypto Show is Lyn Ulbricht. Lyn, I appreciate you coming on the show today. How are you doing today?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm fine. I'm good. Happy to be here.
I'm extremely happy to have you here. I'm very supportive of your son's case, and we're going to get into that. But for people who might be unfamiliar with who you are, do you mind kind of giving a little bit of background about who Lyn Ulbricht is?
Oh, well, I guess my identity now is Ross Ulbricht's mother. I used to have that's my main identity. And that has been since Ross was arrested. Well, now it's been 6 years ago. He has started his 7th year in a maximum security prison. So he was the defendant, was the defendant and convicted of his role in the Silk Road website.
Right.
And all his convictions are nonviolent. There's no violence at all. There is stuff out there about him planning murder for hire. It was never brought to trial. It was never ruled on by a jury. And the indictment in Maryland that mentioned it has been dropped with prejudice. So there is no charge of murder for hire. There is no proof. I know of other people, even one who was commuted, that the government did that to them. And also I've been told by criminal justice attorneys that this is modus operandi for prosecutors. They do this. Really wrong. But in any case, Ross is very peaceful. He believes in the non-aggression principle. The site was based on that. And there was nothing on the site that created victims, no child pornography, no stolen property, no assassinations, and on and on. But drugs were exchanged. They were considered a free choice. And most commonly, it was user amounts of cannabis. That was the most common exchange as far as drugs were concerned on the site.
Well, ultimately what Ross created was a free market. And so for people who are unfamiliar with Ross Ulbricht is the gentleman who's behind Silk Road. And there's been a lot of negative media attention put on the Silk Road case. But as Lyn's saying, his mother, there's no violence going on. Ross wasn't a drug dealer. He offered a free marketplace. And the double-edged sword of freedom, which is what I try to tell everybody who talks about freedom, is that means that you have to be accepting of things that you don't agree with. And, drugs are one of those things. It's just one of those, it's a taboo in society. People don't necessarily want drugs to be readily available, but we have freedom of choice. And what Ross offered with Silk Road was truly just a free marketplace, in my opinion. So, the travesty with this whole situation is that he's got, is it double life sentence, basically?
Yeah, plus 40 years. It adds up to about 2 centuries.
And how old was he when he got arrested?
29. He was 26 when he created the site.
And
Ross and I were talking about this business about drug legalization and the drug war, and it's kind of interesting because they can't even keep drugs out of the prison, but they just keep arresting more and more people and putting them in prison for drugs. And the question is, do we want to have a society where people can choose what they want to do with their own body, whether it's destructive or not, or do we want to build more and more prisons until they're everywhere, because people are not going to stop.
Well, they're already everywhere.
They haven't in 45 years, and billions of dollars with the drug war. It's totally failed in that regard. And so what kind of country do we want here? And I'm not advocating drug use. It's a choice. And so anyway, I think that's something to think about. How many people do we want incarcerated for nonviolent, victimless crimes?
I mean, I see that you're out here supporting your son, and I definitely support your son. So for anybody who's unfamiliar, Lyn's behind freeross.org. We're gonna have links down below so you can check out the website. We're gonna get into some things that you can do to help the case. But Lyn, as from a mother perspective, and I know you're doing this to help your son, but I mean, I'm sure you're not condoning everything that Ross has done. I know that you're just trying to bring justice to a case that's being given injustice.
Sure, I'm not saying, yeah, look, it's certainly open to discussion about what should or shouldn't have been done. Ross himself has said he regrets it. I certainly regret that he did it. I mean, but at the same time, I don't see how anyone can say that a nonviolent first-time offender who is 26 years old deserves double life plus 40 years as if he's a dangerous person. It's like, you know, yeah, he's paid a big price already. He's paid a big chunk of his youth, or younger adulthood, I should say.
Right.
Another quick point about the site is that it was the first time Bitcoin was used as money, really. The only means of exchange was Bitcoin, because Ross believed in the potential for monetary freedom of Bitcoin, and really the whole reason he did this was about freedom, privacy, and free choice. You know, I really don't think he intended to become a quote-unquote drug kingpin,
right.
And I don't really think a website host is a drug kingpin. But in any case, Bitcoin was a big part of this, and it was really, people hadn't even heard of it hardly before Silk Road and Ross's vision about it.
Oh, and I agree. Ross has paved a big road for Bitcoin and helped to build where we are today. So I mean, I'm supremely appreciative of him, and I'm supremely appreciative of him doing Silk Road, even though he might have regrets in hindsight. But he was trying to do something innovative that was allowing for more freedom. And as much as we can bring more freedom into our lives, those are things that I'm going to support and condone.
Yeah, his intentions were good. His intentions were not to hurt anyone. But, you know, a lot of us do things that we regret in our 20s. I certainly have. And, you know, I don't have to pay for the rest of my life living literally in a cage for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, without anything else being done, Ross would never get out of prison. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is his sentence that Judge Catherine Forrest gave him. Yes, she gave him the harshest sentence possible within the law, which is basically a walking death sentence. That's what she gave him.
Now, the one thing I like to compare this to some people who just don't really have any clue about some of the things that happen in the justice system, I like to use El Chapo as a reference, because a lot of people are familiar with El Chapo, the Mexican kingpin, drug kingpin, admitted to murder. I believe he admitted to pedophilia, amongst a slew of other violent things, and he got less time than Ross.
He literally got half of what Ross got.
So he'll get out.
Got 2 life sentences. El Chapo got 1, and they were even in the same prison for a while, though El Chapo was separated. But basically, by tacking on this kingpin charge that the prosecution did last minute, by the way, it wasn't part of the original thing, to pressure him. By tacking that on, it has its own life sentence, but it's saying that a website host, like Jeff Bezos, like Craig Newmark, like different places where people do illegal things on the internet, is the same as El Chapo or Pablo Escobar, who, you know, I don't know too many kingpins who have voluntary interaction and the non-aggression principle as part of their requirements. You know, I mean,
right.
It's absurd, but it's just the government's way of, you know, doing what they want to do with you.
Now, the one thing I wanted to mention next was the petition for clemency. And clemency is a law term for people who are unfamiliar for a reduction in sentence. So there's a petition going on right now that you can sign it. What is the website besides freeross.org? Is it changed?
You can say freeross.org/petition, and it'll go right to it. It's online. It's on change.org. Actually, clemency is the umbrella term for all relief by a president or a governor in a state case. So
Okay.
if you're pardoned, that's clemency. But if your sentence is commuted, which is what Ross is asking for, because his sentence needs to be corrected, it's really wrong. If it's commuted, and it can be to time served or it can be a shorter sentence, that's clemency. Clemency
Okay.
essentially means mercy. And that's what Ross is asking for with this sentence. And so you don't really need to think Ross is a good person or anything to sign the petition, just that this sentence is so harsh, so excessive, and so wrong. And for a first-time nonviolent offender, it puts us all in peril because it sets a precedent for excessive sentencing. Courts or judges can go, well, wait, this guy got double life. I'm giving you double life.
Right.
Yeah.
It sets a
So
precedent.
it's not just Ross who could be impacted negatively for this. It's many, many people.
So how many signatures have been put onto the petition right now? I know the last I heard it was close to 250,000.
Yeah, it's gosh, I should have looked at it this morning, but it was last I looked, it was over 216,000. And we've got a little ways to go, but I believe we will. And I'm looking forward to 250 because then I can say 250,000. You know, I could really, that it sounds very impressive, and it is. There's
It
people
definitely is.
all over the country and all over the world who are supporting this. This is a movement really now.
It definitely is, and it's a movement that I try to support, which is the reason why after getting to spend some time with you in Philadelphia, Anarchadelphia, that I wanted to bring you on and bring some more light to the situation and bring a human element to people who may not be familiar with what's going on and follow my channel.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you. The next thing I want to talk about, and I'll have links down below so people can sign the petition. So please help us get up to 250,000, which will put us at 250,000 for. And this is to bring attention to the President of the United States to bring clemency to Ross's case. And something really cool that happened yesterday that you're going to convince people to do and ask people to do more in the future is in Dallas, Texas, at a Donald Trump rally. There were a bunch of people who were supporting Free Ross that were out there. You want to kind of get into that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, even before that, in Manchester, New Hampshire, people came out and were interviewed by media. They took pictures, they talked, they mingled with the crowd, found a lot of sympathy. People brought out their phones and signed the petition. And it showed, and actually I was told the Trump people noticed them. And that's impressive to them because it shows this is something to pay attention to. This is something happening. And that, so then, because of Manchester being so, happening, I thought, well, where's the next one? And it's hard to know because they're not posted very far in advance. So, but I did find out about Dallas. We did have a great group go out yesterday, and next I found on the internet that there's going to the president's going to be addressing. It's not a rally, but he's having a talk in Pittsburgh, and so I'm going to see if I can get some people in Pittsburgh. And but what I'm really trying to do, and I would love help, is reach out to the different states, the most likely states that he's going to speak at first, but then other states, so I can have a core group ready. So when I do hear last minute, they're ready to go and go be out there. And it really doesn't take a lot of people to get your picture taken, to get a video, to get it on social media, to be noticed. And so that that's the petition's about being noticed. The going to these rallies is about being noticed. Tweeting is about being noticed. We want to have the president and his people see that this is something that would be good to pay attention to, that people care about this issue.
Oh, I totally agree. There was something I was about to say, but I got sidetracked as to what it was. So the next thing I wanted to give a shout out for, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'll have links down below for everything that we talked about, but there's lots of things that people can do to help Free Ross. And the question was, how can people get in touch with you if they want to help out, on a state level with some of these rallies. That's what I meant to get at. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's great. Good thinking. Well, first of all, the footer of every page of our freeross.org website has contact us, and just click that. But also, I'm on Twitter, free_Ross. Actually, that's a way, a message there. Facebook, we have a free Ross community page, just free Ross. Go there and send me a message. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Yes, please, I would love that kind of help. It's a big job. I'm talking about doing a whole campaign, really. And so I could use help in different states. It'd be great. What state are you in?
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I think that's one of the states where he probably will come.
More than likely. I think he's been here a couple times, so I will definitely talk to you more about that. And speaking of, will you be in Vegas this year?
I will. I'm going to be speaking at World CryptoCon on Halloween.
Okay.
And
Sweet.
I'll have a booth. And are you?
I'm not. I'm going to be actually moderating a couple panels, but I'll be at pretty much most all the events. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll definitely link up, and I'll talk with you more about what I can do to help out in North Carolina.
Awesome. Thank you.
The one thing I wanted to shout out that I was going to say a moment ago was we've got a mutual friend, Steve Wand, who's with a company called Digitable, and they're producing NFTs that are non-fungible tokens, but they're also physical collectibles in addition to NFTs, and they're limited edition. Steve is a big supporter of Ross Ulbricht, as you obviously know, Lynn, and something that he did that I thought was really special, and there's still a few of these left, and all the proceeds are going to help out with freeross.org, is this awesome physical collectible. Have you seen
really
this?
Looks like Ross, by the way. When I saw it, they did a great job. You can't maybe be able to tell so well, but it looks.
I'm trying. My lights are a little bright, but yeah.
Like
so Digitable put this out. Mine's is one of 500. It comes with a certificate of authentication, so it lets you know that you've got a legit deal. Plus, it's got the NFT that's attached on the back of it, which has additional awesome art.
Yeah,
I thought was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so I encourage people to check out the Digitable website. I'll have links down below. I believe you got to have a Web 3.0 browser to check that out. He also sent me a couple pins that I'm going to be wearing very proudly.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very proudly. This kind of reminded me a little bit of an Elvis look almost. But I really like it. And I had to give a shout out to Steve because I think he's, in addition to people like Joby Weeks and himself, you've got a lot of people in the community who have acquired some wealth in the cryptocurrency space that are doing a lot to give back that people don't see behind the scenes. Right. So, and these people aren't necessarily wanting me to shout them out for this case, but I feel like, you got to commend human beings for doing good things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We couldn't be where we are now without the support of people like Steve, Joby, Roger Ver has been incredibly generous. Others that maybe they don't want to be known, right. But have really helped us. Lawyers we have to have lawyers. I mean, some people say you don't need lawyers. Yes, I do. We need lawyers, and they're expensive, but we need them.
In addition, I'm sorry.
And so it helps us with that, but other things too. It's been that's one of the ways the government crushes people and keeps them from really defending themselves is the money. And of course, they have unlimited money. And I meet people in the prison all the time, and these poor people are wiped out, and we were essentially wiped out personally when this all happened. And you slowly try to recover, but it's so expensive to fight the federal government. It is just crazy. So yes, this has been a great support in the community. And, I think a lot of people feel that they wouldn't have the wealth they have if it weren't for Ross, and they want to give back. Because I feel like sometimes Ross becomes kind of abstract, like he's kind of this legend or this person. No, Ross is real flesh and blood. And I feel like you can tell, because I am, right? I'm his mother. And he's a man, a good man, who is fighting for his life. And he needs help. He really does. I mean, he's actually a person, and he has a lot to give, and still, and so we are very, very grateful for the help we've gotten.
Well, speaking of help, if there's anything that you as a viewer want to do to help out, please reach out to Lyn.
Yeah,
I'll have all the contact information and links below. There's lots of ways you can help out. It's not just a monetary thing. There's things that people can
right.
do on the ground. You can flyer, you can just, anything you can do to talk to your friends and just bring attention to a situation, because our justice system is screwed. It's very flawed, and we need
It
to
is
bring
very
attention
flawed.
to these things, and we need to get things on a more even playing field and not allow situations where the government can strong arm and bully people because they can't afford to defend themselves, which is
All
completely
right.
ridiculous.
It is. And, you know, it's really gotten so much worse. It's before the drug war, our, you know, the prisons have metastasized 800% since then. They're building prisons, and this is a huge money-making thing and power-grabbing thing that's very un-American. And it's really antithetical to our basic values, and it's wrong. And of course, we're the biggest incarcerator in the world. I mean, this is insane, and it's because of the drug war. And you know, it really needs to stop. And so Ross and I both feel that, you know, we hope that his case will shine a light on this, and also we would both continue to fight for a reform of this situation, because once you get to know the people in there, it becomes, you know, then it's like you can't just leave them behind. And so it becomes a bigger fight. It's for them too. This is really wrong.
I actually, about 5 years ago, went to prison. Back in 2011, I had a DUI and I was convicted, and I got caught driving without a license while I was on probation, and ended up having to activate my time and spend a little bit of time in prison. I ended up spending 6.5 months. Got my GED while I was in there, got out, and started going to school. Got business administration classes that I'm going to. Have 3.97 GPA. And while I was in prison, though, it gave me a really big eye-opening experience as to it's about money. It's about profit. They're making money in those prisons hand and foot. And by keeping generations of people and families, by arresting a Black gentleman with kids, who, for a long period of time, his kids end up statistically going into the prison system as well. So all they're doing is feeding the machine. We're not talking about prison systems that are trying to actually reform and help most people. They're not definitely doing that. And they're owned by private organizations, which makes it
not all, but some, yeah.
It's becoming more and more prevalent. And I'm thinking they're trying to pitch that idea and corporatize prisons, which when they can turn it into an economic model, it's not going to matter about things like this if we don't stand up for cases like Ross's case.
Right, and I just say that it's not even real capitalism, because I can't go buy an acre of land and build a prison and say, hey, come to my prison. This is a whole involved thing with the public prisons and the private prisons. But judges and prosecutors can invest in private prisons on Wall Street. This is a huge conflict of interest. And of course, the incentive is to fill them, and the inventory is human beings. So I'd like to know, well, how this is not human trafficking. This is human trafficking. Our government is involved in it, and these private prisons are involved in it. And it's like the incentive should be, let's have them empty and shut down, not keep them coming, keep it coming. And you know, so of course, one of the biggest lobbyists against marijuana legalization are the private prisons, and also the prison guard unions. A lot of them would be out of a job if drugs were not illegal.
I agree.
And then the police unions are another big lobbying against legalization of pot. We're not even talking about other drugs,
right?
Just marijuana. And so why? Well, gee, wonder why. You know, the pharmaceuticals are in there, and then the alcohol and beer companies are in there. Everybody's got, you know, this interest, this self-interest, but it's human beings, and like you said, the children who are being damaged, who are being really harmed. And it's absolutely wrong.
It is. Well, hopefully we've given something people, you know, for people to think about, because some people may not have been aware of what we're talking about. So hopefully we're waking some people up and lighting some fires in some people. Lyn, is there anything else that you want, because I know you're kind of limited on time, is there anything that you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up?
You know, really, you've been so helpful, because really the main thrust is the rallies. If anyone can help me with that in their state, or want to take on a bigger job and help me in lots of states, you know, I want to reach out to Bitcoin groups and liberty groups and reform groups, drug reform groups, because, you know, people who are likely to care about Ross's case, and just people who care. And it's, so to help me do that, please spread the word about the petition. Please follow me on social media, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so we can continue to get the narrative out there. There's still people who are so misinformed and still talk about Ross as this terrible, violent person. It's like, where is your evidence? Even the government doesn't say that, and they say all these things around Silk Road that the government doesn't even say is true. So just to help us with the narrative, and you know, that's what I do all the time, is trying to, you know, do all those things. So and I need help. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. I really do appreciate what you're doing. I know Ross does, and I appreciate Ross. If you could hold on just for a moment after I'm done doing my wrap up here. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're going to have links down below for everything that we talked about. Please be sure to check out freeross.org, sign the petition on change.org. Do what you can to help out with the case. Reach out to Lyn if there's anything that you can do to participate and help out. If this is your first time ever checking out any of my content, I do encourage you to explore my channel. And if you like what I'm doing, you can support me by subscribing, hitting that like button, commenting, and subscribing, and sharing, excuse me. I had kind of messed up my intro right there. And as always, I like to encourage everybody to be the change by practicing change, and I love you all.